Okay. That's everything.
Oh, wow. Okay. It's time. Want to do the kickoff shot? What?
Yeah, well, we have to. I like traditions. I'm nostalgic like that. Are we good to go?
Yes.
Great choice. Cheers. Cheers, cheers, cheers.
1, 2, 3.
Smoother and smoother.
Smooth.
Right. I feel like it was
Okay.
smoother last time, but it is delicious. My favorite.
Mm.
All right.
Let's do it.
Okay.
She's Candice.
Candice.
Candice is a pretty sounding name.
Candice is really 1 in a billion.
Oh, I love you so much, Candice.
Who's Candice? So Kristina, I'm sorry about that.
Mental characteristics. Somebody with the name of Kristina experiences.
Kristina, Kristina.
You're Bret, right? Yes, you did. Yes, you did, Bret. You tried to
The Modern Matters podcast with Candice, Kristina, and Bret.
Good. Good. All right. Hey, everyone. Candice and my girl, Kristina.
Hi.
And, of course, our guy, Bret.
Hi.
All right. We had our nice little shot. Delicious. Episode 2. Here we go. False narratives. The things that are simply not true. That's what we're going to talk about today. But before we jump into today's topic, circle back to our first ever episode. And we introduced ourselves, how this came about, the fact that we are going to be talking modern matters and topics. So anything we have to circle back to from episode 1?
Well, I think we were learning and we seem to be going along and learning things as we go. Some of the terms we were talking about last week from the Urban Dictionary was savage. So we talked about that. And then there was another word that you were referring to that you said that you wouldn't share until the second episode. So we are not experts by any means. All we are saying is that these are words that have traditionally been used. I know I've used them without knowing that they can actually be offensive. So do you want to share that word before we get kicked off so we can close out on our last topic?
Yeah, I think, okay, yes, I remember. It was, I often said we will, actually, Bret, in the studio, when we would meet with bride and grooms, I would always say, yeah, we'll get together, we'll come back and we'll powwow, until someone said to me, whoa, you got to be careful using that term, which I had no idea. And I don't like to come off as being ignorant or tone deaf. So it was a bit of an eye opener for me. And then it propelled me to go look into more about that word and other words because, like Bret had mentioned in our first episode, obviously intent is important. And like you mentioned today, Kristina, we are certainly not professionals when it comes to linguistics and language and maybe the history of some of these words. So, I think it's kind of an interesting topic for sure. So that was the term that I was using frequently, not thinking anything of, and realizing that it was maybe offensive to some people.
Well, and the reality is, I think many of us have used terms without knowing that they could be offensive in some way or form. But the actual definition of the word powwow, when I look it up, is really that it's a Native American gathering in which American Indians sing, dance, and reconnect with old friends and celebrate rich ancestral history. Often accompanied by conference meetings, powwows are one of the best ways to experience traditional Native American culture, which I absolutely love. That is the true definition. And I love the fact that we have a knowing, and that's why we want to make sure, not normally to kick off our second episode, but it's really closing out an old issue from the last one. But we're learning as we go, and we want to make sure that we're using words appropriately so you guys can learn too and make sure that you're using them appropriately as well.
We're just learning. I think that's the whole idea with this podcast. I don't know if you would both have the same feeling as me, but no one is perfect. Life is just a growing process. So when you're taught something or something's brought to your attention, it's just about growth. And that's, I think, what we're here to do. So if that kind of covers our episode 1 mini recap.
I think, well, and just to close that a little bit out, to understand, once you know that a word might be sensitive, to look into the etymology of the word, understand why it could be insensitive, and then right, which you're gonna, if it's changed its meaning in a more modern way, you're gonna know when to use, why you're gonna use it in that regard. But to understand its history and to understand why it might be insensitive to some people is probably the most important, right? So that you're aware, you educated yourself.
And I think that that's the key thing. It's about self-awareness, right? And that is definitely going to be something that is going to be a theme throughout all our episodes. It's really about learning and your overall self-awareness, and, make sure that we're not just following into the mold, not just following everybody else. Like, do your research, kind of have a better understanding, or just at least start to think a little bit differently. So this is a beautiful example where, typically people would just drop these words and think, hey, yeah, it's not a big deal and I'm being fun and it's not offensive, but it could be. So at least here, we always said that we're going to have some real talk, and there probably will be other things that come up as well. But you can see here, even with this group, that there was confusion around it. But now I think we are good, and I think we're ready to talk about today's topic.
Almost. Sorry, I have one more point from last episode. So I said 4.1 million podcasts, I believe, off the top of my head, because that's what I felt like.
Yes. I knew.
Now, all week I've been listening to podcasts in my regular podcast rotation, and it's almost like when you spot a new car, or when you're looking to buy a car and you see that car all the time on the road.
Yeah.
Multiple podcasts mention how silly it would be to start one right now, obviously because they're established and, they've cornered the market in their I didn't want to share it with you guys in the group chat because I didn't want to be a bummer. I knew you guys would think that would be a bummer, but I wanted to correct the stat. I looked into it, and the best answer I found was there's 2.4 million podcasts.
Okay, so
4.1.
Oh, so it dropped?
Well, I just came up with that number
off
off the top of my head. I thought I had seen it somewhere. I thought I heard somebody say 4.
So you're saying that there's hope?
Yes. There's only 2.4 million. That's not quite 4.1.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. It just makes me laugh. Like, I've seen this throughout my entire life where people will be like, well, why would we even bother doing something like that? Because, there's already other people and it's just not worth it and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, why not? And let's just see where the magic goes. And I think that it's really cool to get a sense that the numbers dropped. So good work, Bret, right?
That first one was off the top of my head. I don't know that it dropped.
We're ahead of the game. Based on Bret's numbers. So, here we go.
Yeah. And the last thing, which we just said before we started recording, is that Candice and I don't think either of us knew your nickname from high school. So I made you a little something.
Oh.
No hesitation, no delay. You come on, just like Special K.
Yes, Special K. And then I also found out through dialogue, this is what I'm saying, guys, this is actually pretty funny for me too. When I was saying Special K, I was referring to
Kellogg's
the cereal, not necessarily the drug. Apparently there's a drug. I did not live that life. So,
my brain went there first. I didn't know Kristina was such a druggie.
I was just like, Special K, farm girl, like not even thinking until before this session did I find that out.
Kristina's like, Candice, you were making fun of me. I was like,
yeah, because you're saying you're a drug dealer. No, I am not. No, I am not.
That was good.
Yeah.
That was
so
really
anyway, if we have permission to use that forever,
yeah,
because,
sure. We can do the Special K.
I want to call you Special K now all the time.
I kind of like it. Yeah, I'm feeling very special.
Okay, this is the official intro to the topic.
Okay.
We'll see if we could use that again. I'm not sure.
I feel like there's some swagger in that one. That's good.
It's a good song.
Yeah. So episode 2, here we roll. Let's just get right into it. Really, really think this is a great topic. And Kristina, I'm going to let you kick off some of the details and talking points.
So I think that today's topic is false narratives, things that are simply not true, and things that we have been told our entire life that in order to have success in your life, you think that you need to do these things. A little bit of the backstory. As you know, I am an author, and it wasn't until I started writing my book, The Authentic You, did I start to really sit back and reflect around some of the societal norms or what we're told in school or what we're told at work. And then you sit back and you're kind of like, well, that's not true. And you carry these beliefs with you your entire life. And some of us, myself included, you end up building a life around these false narratives. So today we're going to bring up a couple of them, and, then we can have some further dialogue, because some of them just don't make any sense. And when you start to kind of see, it's really like myth busting, trying to see how other people are, doing completely different things than we were told, and they're super successful. So I think we need to kind of look into that further. So the first one I have here, that in order to have success, you have to go to school. You have to go all the way through all the processes and all like post-grad and, do your thing in order to have success. And I am understanding now that that is a false narrative.
Well, it's, again, a lot of our topics seem and feel sometimes almost loaded, packed, because success also needs to be defined.
Mm-hmm. By whose standards, though? Like, just, when we really understand that. So when you think about success, was school a huge part of that process for you?
For me personally, it's kind of an interesting topic because I have a very split family when it comes to formal education. Mm-hmm. So my dad's side of the family are all pretty well formally educated with post-secondary degrees, and then even beyond that. And they always drilled into our heads, you have to go to school to be successful. And there was no ill intent with that, because they just wanted the best for us from how they perceived it. My mom's side of the family is the total opposite, where most of them became self-made and successful and didn't even finish high school, actually. Mm-hmm. Their family, they're immigrants, and that just, like, post-secondary certainly was not an option that they really looked at, because everyone in the family had to go to work. So interestingly enough, I have one sister who has 2 post-secondary degrees, and I have none. I went to college. I went to school to pursue my makeup career at that time. And I think my dad's side of the family must have thought I was crazy pursuing something in the arts, and my mom's side looked at it no different. And I have had success and a lot of learning experiences just being in the workforce, really, and learning by doing, which is the most effective way for me to personally learn. So the difficulty with that topic is I don't really do well in that school setting, to be honest with you. So I don't feel it is for everyone. But as a mom, as a parent, I can also see the push to encourage my children to like school. And I guess really what I just kind of almost realized in this moment is maybe it's less liking school, but more just liking learning. Mm-hmm.
And I would say that can come in many different ways, and that is the false narrative, right? So when we think about it, in my family, there was no college. It was just university. And then I did a post-grad, and then I got my certification, my executive certification, all this yada, yada, yada. But when you come down to it, I loved it, right? And I want to make sure that my kids are doing that. And, our kids are watching YouTubers or watching different people make a living. They don't necessarily have to follow that path. So it's changing the narrative around it, and whether or not we're open to kind of see that there's different ways of earning a living or having success. What do you think, Bret?
Yeah, I agree. Throughout high school, that was always kind of in my mind. The narrative is that the next logical step, make it to post-secondary, do as well as you can in high school to, first of all, succeed better yourself and learn through high school. But I also went to university, and that's the main thing I took away from university, is that I learned how to learn there. Where in high school, I just followed the steps to get there, and was certainly happy that I did make it in. And I too have 2 degrees, because when I made it to university and I started studying what I thought was going to be my ultimate degree, which I did finish, halfway through I decided this isn't for me. I want to change things up and move in a different direction that it was more academic at that time. I actually thought, let's stay within academia and not get into the real world right away. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed what I did. I did a media degree first, and then I transferred into psychology halfway through. So I was able to graduate with the media degree while still getting the credits towards psychology, and then finishing the psychology degree, which I loved. And but it wasn't until I was there that it really set in that you don't have to follow this path that I thought I was going to from the get-go educationally. It's changed a lot now, certainly, like you said, with YouTube and new media, because when I went and we were studying media, it's almost, the fundamentals are there, and the principles of media, and we studied a lot of Moses Neimer and that type of thing, but the landscape has changed so much with how you can publish yourself. We can put this on YouTube ourselves, we can put it on Spotify, whatever. So young people have all of these opportunities to do that they don't need to follow traditional means.
Well, and also, like, when you think about that, there's the whole ideology around passive income, right? So the old school way of thinking of it, it's more like, I have one job, I go to my job, I get paid. This is the way we're supposed to do things. This is the way traditionally my parents did things, my grandparents and whatnot. But now the world has there's a plethora of offering, right? So you could do a podcast and still make money, potentially. You could have like side hustles that people are doing now, and doing these passion projects and everything, which I think, and I think that's incredible, because that was not on the table at all. But now, even like moving into entrepreneurship and understanding that is a different way of working. And that just shows like that success can happen in many different ways.
And you can pursue your interests as well. And that is a big drive for me, for sure. And I'm sure for a lot of people, is that you don't want to learn things you don't really care about, right? At the end of the day. So if you can really pursue your passions and put all your effort into making yourself better and making an income from it, then all the better.
I know we want to kind of move on to our next little piece with this all, but just to quickly make mention also, the interesting thing about to become successful, you have to go to school, is that school has a way of teaching, a way of educating. And I feel like I didn't ever fit into that way, because, I mean, even through the experience with the studio, Bret, I would do something over and over and over. That was the only way I could learn. I couldn't read about it. I couldn't watch about it. I had to actually do it. My mind could not, working and learning some things in Photoshop. And he would laugh at me because I would make kind of that same mistake a couple of times until I tried something different ways and got from point A to point B in a different way. But I find school traditionally has a way of educating people. And I can honestly say with my own children, I can see one of my children fitting into that really well, traditional way of, sit still, go to school, learn, start with your ABCs, etc., and learn traditionally. And then I have a child who does not learn traditionally. So I think that the misconception is that school ultimately, that false narrative is that school doesn't ultimately create our success.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that you're saying that. This is now I'm going to bring a little bit of my HR hat into play. That's why the trades right now are a very hot to trot area for people to get employment, right? So that are going to university and following this path, they, that's great, but there's people that learn differently, and we need different offerings in this world. And the trades world right now is a great place to be working. But if you would have talked to people 20 years ago, going to say that you were going to be an electrician or a plumber or whatever, it didn't have the upside, quotation upside. This is the whole point of the false narrative. It didn't have the, that shiny effect that, hey, I'm going to university. It's like, hey, I'm going to be a plumber. People are like, oh, really? But the joke is, it is those trades roles that are extremely successful. And it's about us rethinking about how people learn and what jobs have to offer, because they're all unique and special in their own way, right? It's not just following the same path for everyone. So,
And there's a difference from school to learning. I think that's an important thing to capture with that topic there. What else do we have?
And then I had the second one, which is really interesting, because I'll say that employers right now are really struggling with this concept, but it's a false narrative. The false narrative would be you must stay in the same job for a long time in order to be successful. So I'll tell you from an employment standpoint, organizations are struggling right now because they can't keep people the same way. In the past, the generations were very different. They were very loyal to their organizations. Maybe our grandparents, even our parents, they would be with an organization for like 10, 15 years, even 25 years. And now success, the younger generation is not as tolerant. Like, they're just jumping within 2 years, they'll jump from one employer to the next. And that's true. Why do you have to stay at one organization to be successful? You don't, right? You just actually end up defining your own success. So,
and there's from my personal life, there's countless people that I know of horror stories where they have dedicated their whole life, and the company cares about the company. At the end of the day, when they look at how many times you punch that clock, at the end of the day, they're going to look out for their best interests. And I've seen people get the short end of the stick, unfortunately, excuse me, which is, it's too bad. And that's a big part of it for me that sticks out.
Yeah, that sticks out for me too. I myself have done and worked in so many different jobs that at one point I can remember having a conversation with a family member who said, are you gonna pick a career? Mm-hmm. And I had a moment like, oh, I guess I have to pick like a career, just like you're talking about, Kristina, like having that one career, that one thing you do. And when I really thought about it, I'm like, I am just not cut out for that. I'm really not cut out for that. So, my answer
you were ahead of the game, Candice, because I'm telling you, there's a massive shift going on right now as to how that works. Yeah. And the false narrative is that you need one way and only one way to have success. And that is false. It is honestly like, and it sounds like you've been doing it. It's like a plethora. It's like, I like this and I like that. And it's more heart driven rather than just following one specific path.
I don't know if it's like survival.
It could be
survival.
Yeah, absolutely,
it could be.
for sure.
But the nice thing that I gained from that was learning. Going back, I don't want to jump too far back to the first part of this conversation, but when I've done different jobs and worked in different fields, my goal was always to succeed and move up within that position. So at one point, I worked in nightclubs bartending behind a bar, which was tons of fun. You meet tons of people. You learn amazing, incredible interpersonal skills because you're dealing with people who are out to just forget about their lives, forget about what's going on in their day. You're dealing with intoxicated people, which sounds so silly, but it's almost challenging.
These are life skills.
Right? Life skills, totally. Yeah. And then from there, I was like, okay, I now need to consider working less at night and more in the day. So I shifted to a restaurant. Then from a restaurant, they offered me a supervisor position to a management position. And I was in my early 20s who who would have thought that I would be managing people that were 10 and more years older than me in that industry as a career, which again, you think growing up, those aren't careers, to then realize they are great careers. And if you love what you're doing and you're willing to put in the work and you come with the passion for it, regardless of what that job is,
I think that's key, right? So I think, you know, throughout my career, and many of you know, like I said before, but 20 years of being in HR in multiple industries and whatnot, I have seen so many people not love what they do. And they get caught up, and it's kind of sad, right? Because really, there's that false narrative. You are doing it because you think you have to do it, but you're not doing anything that you love anymore. And that little spark inside of you fades and it starts to die. And usually when I have seen people like that in my organizations, that's when I'm actually telling them that they have to leave in some way or form because they're not connected anymore. They're just kind of going through the motions. And I think that's really sad. You got one life to live. You want to make sure that you're doing something in there that kind of keeps you excited, or that you're doing what you love, right? Because it doesn't really feel like you're working if you're doing that.
But at the end of the day, a lot do have to do it because you need to make a living. Things cost money, and that's the side effect, right? Is you might settle in an unhappy position because you need to make the money, and that ends up being number one.
Yeah, but I think that this whole way that things are shifting, I think you can be more creative. Then maybe you do that job that you don't like, but then you do something on the side that kind of still lights you up, or that you're still doing hobbies and something that is keeping you sparked and aligned with what you love doing. Let's say you love body movement. Maybe you're a yoga instructor on the weekend or after school or whatever it is. But I think that's it right there. Like, you don't have to die because you're following the system, or that you need money in order to make ends meet. You just got to make sure that you rebalance and rethink what those narratives are.
Can I just make mention of, I do know a couple of people in my life that have always done the same job, worked in the same career, and love what they do. Yeah. I just need to also make mention that exists too.
100%.
And it's
Lucky,
a really,
lucky people.
It's true. And it's an individual thing too, right? Because my personality is very busy. And it's a need for me to be an entrepreneur and find new creative ways to make money, because that is how I learn new things and then apply new things. So that's an interesting topic about success in the workplace.
and it's funny because and sorry, we're leaning towards workplace because I just, it's such a object lesson. Like, I've seen it. I personally loved my job, loved it throughout the 20 years, but it was because it kept evolving, and you kept creating it and making it what it was for you. And that's, I think, the difference, where you're completely empowered and you can kind of do your thing within the scope of whatever your work practice is. So, yeah.
I think it's just identifying your own personality too, and knowing what works for you, and finding a way to achieve success for your person, your individual, right? And that looks different for everyone, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, well, I do. I can move into some other ones. I think there's definitely false narratives around emotions, and we've, I will drop one right now. Boys don't cry. What do you think about that?
Boys shouldn't cry.
No, get out of here.
Boys.
Oh my God.
I'm just joking.
Oh my God.
So I have a super sensitive dad. He'd be upset that I'm putting him out there like that. So I'm actually totally joking when I
hope so, Candice. So you're going to hear it later.
No, my gosh. I think human emotion is awesome. I also think there's, we have to create some sort of boundaries around it too, because we can also be overly emotional. And when I say overly emotional, I'm not talking about crying. I'm talking about any anger, whatever it is. We can be extreme with our emotions, but when we're younger, or raising young kids, or when you're a young boy, you are taught that boys don't cry, which is I mean, as a mom with boys, it worries me about their ability to be in tune with their emotions, and I hope that they will grow up knowing that it's okay.
Yeah, I think you can be emotional without crying for sure, because I've tried to squeeze out a tear since 14. I get emotional all the time when I see things, and I can't cry. I don't think a tear has fallen down my cheek.
You can.
I'm trying.
It's conditioned.
As I get older, I'm not holding back. I'm letting it
God.
go. I watched on a personal level, I watched the
Titanic?
The Taylor. Yeah, Titanic.
Who didn't cry watching Titanic?
You Rose.
I was at the age to
the
not.
heart of the ocean. Yeah.
But I watched the Taylor Hawkins tribute, and his son played on the song "My Hero," the Foo Fighters song "My Hero," and he played his ass off when he. And I mean, I could feel the water in my eyes.
It's good.
I was emotional. It was one of the best things I've seen in a long time.
Were you by yourself?
I was by myself,
Yeah, see?
and I thought this is the time
didn't cry,
I can let it
Kristina.
rip. I can let it rip
You
right
didn't?
now.
No.
But see, Kristina feels that is attached to conditioning, that boys don't cry. So maybe you grew up with, it's no insult to any family.
I think it's every dude. Trust me.
Yeah.
It is not a Bret thing.
No.
You just represent.
no.
I didn't
Most
have
of
a
the
shot glass ready to catch it either. That was a second on my mind.
Okay, so what about this? Look, I can keep going with them. Like, be a man. What's that? What's that about?
Well, that's just natural, Kristina.
Right? Oh, God. What was I thinking?
I look in the mirror
Man
every
up,
morning and I
man
say that
up.
to myself.
Be a man. Right?
Come on, Candice, be a man. That's so stupid.
But these are the things, these false narratives that get baked in.
I think I have one that drives me nuts.
Okay,
you
go.
need to act more ladylike.
I have ladylike here too.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Well, growing up, I have a loud voice and I'm extremely
We're like
social and
Yeah.
outgoing and out there. And it has been said to me, you have to be more ladylike. No man will want to be with you if you're not more ladylike.
Yeah, those comments, they come this way too. Like I remember I got told I was very vocal at a kitchen table. Imagine I had something to say. And one of my ex-boyfriend's dad turned around and said, "Oh, you just sit there and look pretty. We don't need to hear from you right now." Which made me mad. And then I actually got louder, but
hence the
XXXXXX. But it just shows you guys, it's on all ends that conditioning has definitely been baked in. Remember, we were also talking about colors, like typical colors, gender colors. Pink is for girls, blue is for boys, yellow and green is for, neutral.
I have an interesting...
I didn't even realize those were neutral colors.
They are
Truthfully,
technically.
I never thought of them that way.
Well,
He doesn't have kids yet, so he doesn't realize what the shop
I
looks
thought of
like
the color
when you're-
wheel in my brain.
So, I totally hear that. The one thing I do find interesting about that is I was raised like that, but my favorite color was blue. So to me, it's like, how much did it really impact when we're talking about a color?
Oh, I think it does.
It does, right? So
100%.
I'm not against that perspective in any way, but I just find it interesting because I don't know.
I think it's funny because it's so baked in that I was working on a logo and I had pink in it and purple, and someone's like, "Oh, whoa, this is way too feminine." And I'm like, "But I like it," right? So all of a sudden you've labeled that based on these false narratives as to what pink is, what, blue is, or whatever color it is.
I feel like that's something I said to you.
No.
Did I say that to you?
No, you didn't. But someone else, do you feel that way too?
Well, I just look, this is the interesting thing about it, is how big of a deal is that? And to that point is, yes, I get the whole false narrative thing, but I think like colors are not, how important is it?
But it's a false narrative. So if it isn't important, then, you know, your kids would be able to go to school and in whatever color, and it would be a non-issue, right?
Okay, let's say you had a newborn child. You didn't pierce their ears. Let's say it's a little girl. You didn't pierce
Lauren. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. And you put her in a blue outfit. People will just automatically assume it's a boy.
Yes.
Is that bad?
But why?
Because they just, it's an association thing, no?
No, it's a narrative. It's like, this is labeling again and kind of putting things in buckets. Why can't it just be?
I don't know. I would almost love for people to drop some comments.
That one?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. Remember you said that your son went to school and he had nail polish on.
Yeah, he did. Both of them, actually.
Both
they
of
thought
them.
It was so cool.
They thought it was cool. And how did it go for them?
Some kids had something to say. I was quite interested to hear them comment and say they didn't care. At first I was a little reluctant because my reluctance was more, you're going to school to learn, and why do something like that? It seems like a distraction, which is kind of part of why I also wish there was uniform at our kids' school, because I do feel like there's a time and there's a place. I don't judge a rock star wearing nail polish. It fits the time and the place. I don't know. Maybe that's where I'm a little maybe too like dating myself or conservative or whatever. I don't want to get into those topics, but I was reluctant, but I figured, you know what? It's a learning experience for them. They want to paint their nails. It doesn't hurt anyone. It's not hurting anyone.
But that's my point, right? So he was happy. He went. It was a non-issue.
I mean, people made comments.
Of
for
course,
sure. There were comments made. Why do you let your kids paint their nails? Blah blah blah. I mean, they're just expressing themselves. They're at those ages, 6 and 11. They're trying to, figure their stuff out. Plus, they have a lot of things accessible at their fingertips too that they see that we didn't see growing up.
Very true.
So sometimes I wonder, does this now spark a need for conversation? But that's a whole different topic and different day. I hear what you're saying about the false narrative. I am only pointing out how much of the importance of those types of things,
but they're not important. They're absolutely not important. The key point that I'm trying to make is that if you're a child or if I like whatever, it should just be, right? It should not matter as much as it matters, but these are based on conditioning that has been put into place from very, very young ages. That's all.
I know. I hear that. I also think to marketing a little bit, right? So it's like if you're...
People have made tons of money off of it, right? The whole
marketing, because it's, you create marketing that speaks to something, right? If you're a female in business trying to attract females, you may use colors that we have more traditionally tied to being feminine colors. Now, how much does that matter? I don't know, but it seems to work in the world of marketing. So it's an interesting topic.
Sometimes you do need to lean into it from a design perspective, right? Graphic design, you want to lean into some of those colors and the stereotypes because that's the emotion you want to portray in the piece for marketing purposes. So sometimes you do need to use it.
Yeah, and I think it's not, I'm just trying to get us to rethink a little bit from a macro level, like saying, well, where does that even come from? Right? Those labels and stuff have come from a whole societal move in that direction.
Yeah, it is interesting. The world is shifting. So I think that's kind of the cool thing about where we're going, right? What's going on. And it's cool to talk about these things too, because as we are bringing up younger kids in the world, it's nice to almost be able to say how important is...
it's not important.
Right.
Really, at the end of the day, like, it's not important. Some of the stuff that we give value to, and, I could go deeper, and we probably will in future episodes, but this is like where self-limiting beliefs start to reside because you're not fitting the norm and not fitting into what is expected across the board. And it's like, well, who created it?
Yeah.
Who created it? You just do you.
We do create a lot of things, but I have really enjoyed this topic, actually. And
and I think that we'll be definitely talking about some of the deeper impacts to these false narratives, probably through all our podcasts or episodes as we move forward, because they definitely are baked in.
Yeah.
And they have a deeper impact from you living your best possible life or real modern issues that we see every day and the things that, you know, people are valuing and does it really make sense?
Yeah, I think the cool thing too is as we are posting some snippets here and there and getting out onto platforms, I would love for things like this to spark some conversation. I think that respectfully, obviously, it's very important to be respectful. I think it's interesting when people have opposing opinions and have a great point to bring up or bring to light for people that might create some perspective, whether you know, you agree or disagree or whatever it is, we can still sit at the same pink table or green table.
I love
or
pink.
blue
I love the pink.
You
table.
love pink, right?
Pink is punk.
Are you going to cry? Are you going to cry now?
I really am trying. It's not like I haven't been trying. I'm not afraid
I don't know,
of it.
Man.
So to touch on the pink table really quickly before we close up episode number 2, in the first episode, we mentioned the painting of this table, chairs, the pink and green. I use Fusion mineral paint, and this product is awesome. So check out all of these products, fusionmineralpaint.com. I just wanted to shout out that product because it was awesome, and I didn't have to
It's pink,
scan.
and you can like it if you're a boy or a girl.
I'm a boy, and I love it.
See? That's what I'm saying, guys. That's all I'm saying.
I'm
here.
pretty sure you're a man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good point. Good point.
Not a boy.
Yes.
That is very true. Okay, I have something to show you, falling into narratives, but
Yes.
false narratives potentially. But it is amazing. I just saw this this week, and so this is Unmesh, who's a YouTuber. I'm always showing you YouTubers, basically. But he teaches Photoshop, so he's always all the updates that come out with Photoshop. Is a really good instructor, and even for me, I've learned things like as Candice said in the beginning of the episode. You can do things the same. You can have the same result doing things multiple different ways through Photoshop. So I actually like him because his perspective is different than when I first started in photography. I used to watch the Photoshop guys, and they had a way to do it. That's what, they had a podcast, they had a show, and that's how they did it. So, but this is outstanding because no longer do we need to follow the narrative of you need a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a significant other in real life when AI is so powerful.
Oh.
Your relatives are more concerned about you getting married than you are. You need to send them a photo like this. That will keep them wondering for a while. Anyway, back to the basics.
So we can talk through it. I won't go through the whole thing, but basically this is an AI generated
It's the after.
I think
girl.
it's perfect.
It is
jump into how can AI create
powerful.
This? There are lots
The
of
pressure
pictures around
that
it.
we have to go
Look at the image
to
there.
like get our
Blow your
family
mind.
off our
Look at the
backs.
face. The light
Hey?
on the face is coming from behind.
But
Oh,
it-
it's
from
so
the left as
believable.
well. And also
Wow.
this
He goes through
AI-generated
a couple
light is
iterations
coming
because
from
it
the
is
same direction.
they're using
Not only that,
OpenAI's
there is an ambient light, so
DAL-E,
it's
which
coming
is
in
the
from
platform,
there.
which
On
is
the lady as
basically
well, there is that ambient
a
light.
way
There's a little bit of light coming
to
from
load
the
your
right
images
side.
and to
Even here as well,
put in
there's that
prompts,
little
and
Wow.
it will actually find
If this is not a thing
images
for you,
that
take a look
are
at this.
close to
There's
what
the
your
sunlight
words
going
are
right there.
describing. So you're
Nice.
basically typing out
Realistic,
prompts or
but
even a
look at this
sentence.
shadow.
So
for
she's
the-
not a person.
She's not a real
Take a look at
person.
the head.
It's using
Direct
AI
line
to
with that
source
if the
all the
subject was
different
standing right
eyes
there
that
and if
you've
the light
typed
was
in. If you
just
type
that
brown
way,
eyes,
the shadow
the
would
head
be
scarf,
exactly
Wow.
that way.
everything. So you'll see this isn't the
Now, you might be
final
wondering, how did AI
female
create
that
all
he
this? First of all,
chose
there
in
are
his
not
picture. I'll
right?
fast
Because if
forward
you
a little
upload
bit,
face
but
to DAL-E,
he
it's something
Okay,
else.
but the main thing, like, can I get hooked up with Thor?
absolutely. Well,
If
this
I say
version,
strong,
no.
powerful metal hammer,
you might not get the actor himself because it's going to construct all different
He also might not
iterations
be
of
wearing
them.
pants.
but yeah, no, again, farm girl, I'm much more PC than you are. Yes.
Strong metal hammer.
Well, that's Thor. Anyways, this is incredible.
Yeah, but it gives you options, right? So
He's hilarious.
He's chosen this one, but it gave you a whole variety that you
Yeah.
can choose from, and then you're tweaking as you go. So this face obviously looks crazy. You would
Yeah,
never
yeah.
finish with that, but
She's kind of a psycho girlfriend.
he kind of
Well,
walks
he
you through.
fixes it all up.
He fixes it all
Wow.
up. So yeah, the end result is
This guy's a genius.
Oh yeah, he's great. And talk about your finger on the pulse to what's out there, because DALL-E has been around for a little bit. I think there's a second version now.
Yeah.
But I first saw something called Midjourney, where you can construct from scratch using prompts, sentences.
I know.
Paintings, digital art, whatever you want, and all you're doing is you're putting in the specifics. So you're saying hyper realistic, it'll give you a photorealistic. Unmesh gives the example in the other video where he had an elderly lady walking towards heaven. So it had to combine a staircase, it had to combine heaven. He added hell in later by just typing in that one word. And it's automatically through the AI generating the images, and then you pick, it might give you 4 options and you pick which one is best, and you tweak it to where you want it, and you're essentially using words to create a visual.
Okay, can I just say one thing right now? You can't tell me that the pressure of false narratives is not an issue when someone is making $1 billion creating pictures where you can trick your family that you have a partner.
Well, I think with DALL-E, it's an open AI, so it's actually it's open. People are making modifications to it all the time. It's open source. So
what does that mean?
No money is made.
Oh my God, it's even worse. He's not even making money.
Well, it's not him. It's not him specifically, but yeah, it's a platform.
That is crazy. I bet people do that.
I know.
I mean, I don't want to get into other topics, but even just like to showcase their success, like, that.
Well, here's a photographer. I have to look up his name here. Alper Yesilas. Alper Yesilas from I think he's from Istanbul.
Kind of looks like my dad.
This isn't the photographer. So what he's done is he's used AI similar. I don't think it didn't mention if he used open.
It could be your dad.
Could be my dad.
AI
Looks like him a bit.
It's so he called this
is his
series
that we're looking at right now.
I can't believe you don't recognize this guy.
Who is he?
I don't.
He called this series As If Nothing Happened. So it's celebrities who have passed away, and this is what he is generating, or he's illustrating what they potentially could look like if they had aged.
Passed young and then aged,
yes.
and this is his.
So this is Freddie Mercury from Queen.
Oh, this is right now?
Yep.
Oh, Freddie.
No, what?
Oh my God, Heath
one?
Ledger.
There you go.
Okay, that one I get. This is kind of neat.
This one's probably tricky. Kristina might get it.
I don't know why. Who is it?
Janis Joplin.
Oh, yes, I see it.
Okay, now that wow. So, okay. That's an oh my God.
Michael Jackson.
To me, this one is the worst one. I don't think that's actually how he would have aged, but
not
you never
the
know.
amount of work he had done. Poor guy. That guy's story is
wow, this is kind of
heartbreaking.
Who's this one?
Who's that? I don't know.
Phil Collins.
You know
is
what?
it?
No, it's not. But that looks like Phil Collins now, who is still alive.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Everybody has passed. Sorry.
Yes, everybody's died. This is Kurt Cobain.
Oh, wow.
That's probably the most realistic
Jimi
one,
Hendrix
I would say, the Kurt Cobain one. Yeah, this is Jimi Hendrix.
Wow,
that seems pretty.
His hair, man.
And or Einstein.
Yeah, Einstein. I would go with Einstein, yeah.
This was tricky, but I think this one's actually pretty realistic to a degree.
It's not popping.
John Lennon.
Oh, I can see it now. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So for anyone that's not watching our podcast and only listening, you got to hop over to our YouTube channel for sure to see these. What cool.
Yeah,
work. What a neat idea this is, because it's essentially this photographer has used old photos and aged people in them. Kind of neat.
Oh,
Elvis.
Yeah.
And Tupac.
Tupac.
Oh, my.
That one's pretty realistic.
Yeah, that's pretty good, man.
Good.
I have to agree.
So, yeah.
Isn't he still alive? Anyways, I'm joking.
In hologram form.
Yes.
All right. Well, I
got one more.
One more. Okay.
Sorry.
Wow. We can't
This
wait
is a departure
so long
because
I
want to. Like midway.
I thought we were going to get
more?
Get more fluid with our initial conversation, which was good.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
This is, like I said, a departure. I want to make your palms sweaty because the narrative of if you play on roofs, you will hurt yourself.
Oh, if you play on roofs.
Is
like
not,
on the roof.
This guy's fine. Describe what you're seeing to people who aren't watching.
Some guy is on a roof.
He's walking around. Oh,
He's not.
Oh.
I'm
My
uncomfortable.
palms.
I'm on the
I
edge
can't
of
even.
a
Why
roof.
would you do that?
My palms when I watch these,
I hate
and I
when
can't
my
not
kids
watch them either.
Oh, when my kids watch this stuff, I am so afraid of heights that watching this is
Okay,
painful.
it gets
for me.
way worse.
Okay, he's playing on a roof. He is
Yeah.
breaking the
False
narrative.
narrative.
Yes, he's breaking the narrative. Oh, what is he gonna do?
Nobody go on a roof.
He makes Spider-Man.
Okay, he caught himself. He caught those wires.
Oh my God, Bret! I thought you were like showing us someone falling at the bottom of a.
He made it. He made it.
Get on the roof and go home.
I feel like I'm breathing harder into the microphone
Oh,
just
sorry, I
talking
might
than
be
this guy is jumping
God.
off roofs.
I actually thought
False
He was-
narratives. You
don't-
don't necessarily die climbing on the
I wish you could
would
touch
have
my
died.
disgustingly sweaty palms.
I actually jumped. There was a
I
physical
can't not watch
reaction.
those. I
Yeah,
can't.
yeah. Well, that was pretty psycho.
Yeah.
I still think not playing on the roof is a
Nobody
good,
go
good
on
thing.
the roof.
Don't
Safety
do what
first.
Donnie
Safety
Don't does.
first.
That is
Oh
ridiculous.
my
I
God.
can't stand that kind of stuff. It actually makes my insides. Ugh.
Yeah. Well, I physically jumped. Yes.
Anyways.
I love it. I love it.
Yes.
I love it.
My goodness. Okay.
Well,
Well, guys, I loved episode 2. And on that note, I'm going to go wash my hands.
yeah. Oh man. Thank you for all the clips. I feel like they really surmised everything together. It just really shows you, what people will do to kind of break some of those false narratives, I guess.
Or like fall into them even.
Literally.
I didn't even mean to do that, but that was
a pun.
funny.
That was a pun. It was
Pardon the pun.
Yes.
All right.
Hesitation, no delay. You come on, just like special K.
good. That was nice. I had a special K.
I do like that nickname.
I was like,
think
oh, I guess we're changing the song.
Yeah.
We're changing the outro.